Zombie has been on the big screen for almost a century now, and the notion itself dates back to colonial times. Many questions arise as how it evolved to be in the state that we now recognize it as, and its origins. To truly understand the zombie, we must first examine the culture and environment from which it emerged. The notion of zombie originates from West Africa probably, starting with the word itself, zombie, which has several possible sources. This includes the Congo words Zambi, meaning God, and Vumbi, meaning ghost or corpse that still retains the soul. The notion of zombie was transferred over the Atlantic Ocean to the Caribbean Sea through the slave trade, where it took root in the island of Hispaniola in the region Haiti. There it manifested itself in Haitian voodoo, though important to note that it isn't formally part of it. The zombie itself was thought to emerge from sorcerers known as Boko. They create zombies by administrating poison to certain individuals, which will bring the individual to a coma-like state, where the person will appear dead. They will then proceed to reawaken the individual, who will appear in a zombie-like state, a soulless person used to do the bidding of the Boko, and needing little to no sustenance. Just as voodoo was a threat to Europeans and white Americans, zombies became an allegory, a metaphor for the terrors of colonialism and imperialism. Zombies were the manifestation of a being trapped in internal subjugation, deprived of an afterlife. This notion creates the terror that even one's soul can be enslaved, and not even death can free one from subjugation. Now going back to voodoo, the religion from where zombies emerged. Voodoo originates in Haiti. It's a mixture of beliefs. A religion that's composed of nations, each representing usually a different culture that originated from Africa. Voodoo originated from the 16th to 19th centuries in a process of syncretism. The combination of different beliefs ranging from traditional African beliefs to Catholic beliefs. Important to note that centuries prior to the Atlantic slave trade, African traditional beliefs were already blending with the Catholic beliefs brought from Europe, though much of it did happen by force in the colonies. The Haitian voodoo religion has at the very top, Bon Dieu, which is French for good God. He can be equated to God of Christianity, though he is served by a whole pantheon of Lua. Lua are seen as spirits and are sometimes referred to as saints, but not always. They are not deities, but rather act as intermediaries, who are with and under the supreme god, Bon Dieu. People serve the Lua and rarely the supreme god himself. The notion of possession is also a prominent one in voodoo. Possession is not viewed negatively. It doesn't have to do much with the Christian perspective of possession, that of a demon inhabiting a person. Rather, in Haiti it is viewed as something akin to someone riding a horse. This position is viewed positively and even an honor. The Lua form 21 nations, and every nation is associated with an African culture and belief system. For instance, one nation has predominantly spirits originating from the Congo people. The nations can be viewed as encompassing the multitude of African belief systems that all came in the melting pot in Haiti. Prominent nations include the Rhoda nation, which is composed of spirits originating from Bena and is associated with water. Some prominent ones in the family include Papa Legba, represented as an old man, who is the gate opener between the mortal world and the Lua. Dambala, a kind-hearted spirit who is represented in a snake-like form. Then we have the Petwo nation, which contrasts the Rhoda nation, as they are represented as hot and even volatile, opposed to the Rhoda nation's coolness. they are composed primarily of spirits originating from the Congo people. The nation could have also originated from the island itself of Hispaniola. Then we have the Gidi nation, a nation who is associated with death and regeneration. And the nation houses one of the most iconic lure, Baron Samedi, French for Baron Saturday. Baron Samedi is a lure of the dead and is usually depicted with a top hat, black tail coat, dark glasses and cotton plugs in the nostrils, as if to resemble a corpse dressed and prepared for burial in the Haitian style. He is frequently depicted as a skeleton. He is someone that likes to party, but is also capable of performing his rituals correctly. His role is to dig the deceased's graves, meet them once they have been buried, and then finally lead them into the underworld. He also ensures that all the corpses rot in the ground, to stop any soul from being brought back as a zombie. One of the reasons why voodoo and in part zombies are misunderstood and or viewed as evil was due to a series of events, starting with Haiti gaining its independence in 1804. Voodoo was a pivotal element in the country gaining its independence, as it was a voodoo ceremony that started the insurrection, the riots towards freedom. Therefore, a narrative was created around voodoo as something evil and dangerous, symbolizing European powers losing control, the loss of colonial order. It started to symbolize for Western powers all that was undeveloped, uncivilized, and primitive. Haiti would be again invaded in 1915 by the USA, supposedly due to the recent political unrest in the country, though it was probably to prevent German influence and secure the country's resources. Here they encountered Haitian culture and inevitably voodoo. The Americans feared the island because it was different. It ignited their imagination. This fear created untrue and exaggerated tales, ranging from human sacrifice to black magic. And it's around this time period where zombies will first appear in literature, appearing in T. Brooks' Magical Island, published in 1929. T. Brooks writes down what American Marines tell him about the island, which as stated before are exaggerations. Here he will present these tales as fact and fueling American fear and superstition towards Haiti, reinforcing the fear of the American people concerning what black power might look like, coupled with the fact that Afro-Americans were gaining political influence in the USA. Other literary works about zombies will soon emerge, and the first literary work to include zombies on American soil would be Strange Tales, The House of Magnolia. The location would be a plantation just outside New Orleans. New Orleans, which was part of the old Louisiana colony belonging to France, who had a predominant voodoo community. Important to note that their voodoo religion, Louisiana voodoo, is considered to be a separate religion from Haitian voodoo. The House of Magnolia, published in 1932, plays in this already established narrative of the perception of voodoo and black magic belonging to voodoo, and representing monstrosities associated with black bodies. The zombies that appear in the story is the same one that emerged from the horrors of slavery, the one emerging from Haitian plantations. The idea that death itself can't even release one's soul from forced labor. White Zombie, where a white woman falls under the spell of a local Bokor who is also white. It is another manifestation of the American perspective on Haiti and voodoo. There is this underlying notion that black magic, and by extension black people, have come and even affected white people. Establishes many zombie motifs for many films to come, but also motifs concerning Haitian voodoo in general in the early American cinema world. This includes most prominently large rituals that are viewed as evil and exotic. We can talk about the film I Walked with a Zombie, released in 1943. It takes place in Saint Sebastian, sticking to the roots of the zombie. Including voodoo rituals in the film. It touches upon themes of racism and slavery. For instance, Betsy represents how blind some people can be to racism and the abuses on the plantations. Invites the audience to further inspect the reality of things. We'll now be inspecting the Romero era, director that has directed 5 zombie films and has left a prominent mark in the history of zombies. His first film, Night of the Living Dead, 1968, created the modern zombie. Made in the context of segregation in America, the zombies here became flesh-eating beings, represented as an allegory of society devouring itself within, commenting on the American social disease, made when America itself seemed to be on the verge of collapse. This film was also significant for casting the first Afro-American in the lead role for a horror film. His next film, Dawn of the Dead, 1978, focuses on a community barricading themselves in a large shopping mall. A film where there is no difference between the living and undead, as both are hypnotized by consumer goods. An inspection of the materialism of a consumer culture that increasingly threatens to tear apart its inhabitants. The critique of society of consumerism. A film that catapulted the zombie horror. Next is Day of the Dead, 1985. Envisions an island paradise in which humans are reanimated and live apart from civilization that has socialized them into becoming zombies. The film gives a much more humanistic dimension with a zombie called Bub. The movie is also a critique of the rigidness of the military and certain scientific methods. Next is Land of the Dead 2005. The film is a critique on the class system of America, the social and economic divide in American society, the divide between the elite 1% and the rest. Diary of the Dead 2007, filmed in found footage, which is the use of footage as a found object. A film which socially critiques American culture and commenting on America's racial politics. His last film is Survival of the Dead 2009, a film who is in part focused on fragmented American individualism, which is represented by the character Seamus, insisting that children and women should follow traditional roles, and killing any who is perceived to be outside the family domain. All of Romero's films were a reflection of American society and the ills of society in general. Not just mindless creatures for the sake of spectacle, but movies that were imbued with thought-provoking themes and messages. These movies reflected the arc of American cultural history. The 20th century saw a mass of zombie films, starting with Tombs of the Blind Dead, released in 1972, a Spanish-Portuguese film showing that zombies were present in the European cinema world. Zombie 2, released in 1979, an Italian film which was the unofficial sequel to Dawn of the Dead. The film lacked the political commentary and depth of Romero's films, but was quite entertaining and had one of the best scenes ever in zombie history, a zombie versus a shark. Then we have Death Dream, 1974, which talks about a Vietnam soldier that has come back as a zombie, a commentary on the state of war veterans. Brain Dead, 1992, the violent film of the young director Peter Jackson. Shivers, 1975, a film which focuses on sexually transmitted diseases. Now we enter into the modern zombie. The zombie dies out a bit in the 90s but has a resurgence in video games, which will then trigger its appearance on the big screen once again. First of all, we have the game Resident Evil 1996, a Japanese game that revived the zombie in sorts, was a critical success. The game's plot revolves around the fact that ill-intentioned scientists who are releasing bioweapons, they are transforming people into zombies. House of the Dead, another game released in the same year, has a similar plot. These games are a reflection of the bioweapon fear, prominent in Japan and the world in general. Fear reminiscent and stemming from Unit 731 of Japan during World War II. Unit which did a lot of human experimentation and the development of bioweapons. Though more prominently in the collective memory was Hiroshima, which would fuel and reinforce the bioweapon paranoia of the 90s. Though events happening in the same time frame would be the real source of terror, such as the Olympic Park bombing, which was a domestic terrorist pipe bombing attack on the Olympic Park in Atlanta, Georgia on July 27, 1996 during the Summer Olympics. Event which reinforced the paranoia even more, even though technically this wasn't a bioweapon. Though it was the rise of natural pandemics which really amplified this paranoia, such as SARS in 2003 and the H1N1 pandemic in 2009. Another big hit was the Resident Evil movie, 2002, based on the video game with the same name. It was one of the first introductions of the pandemic zombie to the big screen. Released the same year, also had the pandemic zombie that stems from scientific misjudgment. Here we have the emergence of fast zombies, giving a completely new take on the zombie. The early 2000s saw many other zombie films, such as the Spanish film Rec, 2007, which was filmed in found footage, giving a sort of documentary quality. It also had Rec 2, its sequel, 2009, also being filmed in found footage. The influence of video games in this film is apparent. Then we have Shaun of the Dead, 2004, a comedic take on zombies, playing on all the zombie tropes. Zombies reached such heights that The Walking Dead comics was turned into one of the most popular TV series of all time, which first aired in 2010. Zombie films continue to create hits such as World War Z 2013. In recent times, the COVID-19 pandemic is a disaster that can be easily reflected in horror movies, and especially in zombie movies. The zombie seems almost to be the perfect creature to reflect this fear, this disaster. In this video we've seen its origins from slavery in Haiti, to it being used as one of the most common monsters in the horror genre, and recently being the almost perfect metaphor for the COVID-19 pandemic. The zombie has come a long way.